Hello. Let's talk about uh, assignment one. Sorry, I'm a little bit fried. So for this week, focusing on RAG, I wanted to see if I could get a simple question and answer chatbot that knows more about the history of the AR-15 rifle platform than most LLMs do. It's the most popular gun in America, but people repeat a lot of misconceptions, which loads LLM training corpuses with uh, essentially heavily weighted falsehoods. And people have sort of forgotten the true history of the AR-15. I can talk more about that in a second. Anyway, just to prove that this is a problem, I used E4 to check a bunch of models with the question, is the M16 an AR-15? Answer with one word, either yes or no. As you can see, Gemini says no. OpenAI 4.0 says no. Grok says no. Other Gemini model says no. I think you get the point. Nova Light says no. And let's do an Anthropic model. Also says no. Sonnet also no. Uh, this is weird because, uh, well, I guess in a sentence, the M16 is just a government name for a rifle that was called the AR-15 and built for the military. Every single AR-15 that Armalite ever developed was select fire, meaning that it had an automatic um, firing mode. And yeah, that's just M16 is literally just a different name for the same gun. And all M16s are AR-15s, but obviously not all AR-15s are M16s. Anyway, so you come over to my chat genius. This is my Slack interface. I have a direct message going with bot, and I say, hey, is the M16 an AR-15? Answer with one word. And it says yes. So let's talk about how we achieved this. Um, there's a bunch of old sources that aren't confused about this in the way modern people are. Uh, I think around the time of basically the AR-15 was first conceived in I think 57 and adopted by the Air Force in roughly 62. And at that time, machine guns were still transferable. All you have to do was pay a tax of 200 bucks and you could buy and sell machine guns just as an ordinary guy. That's still true for pre-86 machine guns, but it's not true for machine guns manufactured after 86. Uh, anyway, people started trying to pretend that the AR-15 and the M16 are somehow like vastly different from each other around the time of the assault weapons in an effort to, I guess, convince people that AR-15s aren't scary rather than saying, like, no, the whole point of the Second Amendment is to own weapons of war. I disagree with this approach. I think it's ahistorical and just wrong. Uh, so, in order to get an LLM that knows the history of the AR-15, I needed some history documents. So I went and found some declassified memos from the Army of this like huge reports on the history of the platform. I set up. I also found some secondary sources. There's a really good book called The Black Rifle, which is a retrospective on the M16 and the AR-15. I put together a OCR pipeline that takes these PDFs and turns them into text and then loads these documents into Pinecone. And I also gave my RAG pipeline a brain lift, which tells it that its purpose is to be a small arms historian and to help people correct misconceptions about the most popular rifle platform in America. So it has some experts, obviously Eugene Stoner, Jim Sullivan, who was another engineer at Armalite who did most of the work on the AR-15, and the authors of the Black Rifle, the U.S. Department of Defense. It's got some spiky points of view. The M16 is an AR-15. Uh, and then this file is parsed by my bot service. Uh, yeah, here. And then it answers the questions. So you can also come back to the Chat Genius and say, tell me something esoteric about the AR-15 and send your message. And oops, I accidentally sent that twice. Anyway, it knows where it came from, and I'm super excited about that. About my project in general, uh, what do I want to say? It's, I think, really well decomposed into files. This is not AI slop. I have my routes split out. I have my templates split out for the main app page and login of separate services. And this is a Python Flask app running on in a Docker cluster with a PostgreSDB running on an EC2 instance. As you can see, this is public right now, and it will let you authenticate as long as you have an authorized email extension. So I think the stack is pretty cool. I think I forgot to mention the front end. It's a dependency-free front end. So this is literally just vanilla HTML and JavaScript. Uh, in my, yeah, got my JavaScript here, and the HTML comes from these templates here. So I think this is pretty cool. I don't have threads and I don't have file upload and search, but I have the rest of the chatbot features. Sorry for missing those. What am I going to say? Basically, I spent way too long trying to get WebSockets to work and use them where they aren't applicable as much. Like instead of just using them for events, I tried to use them to also send data in real time, so it'd be super, super fast. And I burnt just basically the entire first week on that, which was a mistake. And I think the main learning from me there is that with an AI 50 or doing AI first development, it's very tempting to think like you're just on the verge of figuring things out because you have an AI that seems to know everything. So you can think you're a lot closer than you are to being done with something, especially if you're operating in a domain where you don't have that much experience because you haven't built real-time apps before. And LLMs have less experience in that domain too, just because there aren't as many real-time apps on like to pull from in the training data. So anyway, that was painful. Lesson learned. This is all just polling now. But what is there to say? Yeah, I think this is neat. Take care.